Okay, in this video, we're going to go over the 7-1, 7-2, 7-3 review. So to receive credit for this assignment, you must show your work. Okay, so it says also when units are in the problem, units should be in your answer. And your job is to find the missing side of each triangle and leave your answer in simplest radical form when needed. And I don't want any decimals, okay? So we have how many problems? We have 6 problems, and down here, if you're trying to do it by yourself, here are the answers that should be among the 6 values. Okay, so let's see if we can figure this out. Okay, so what I'm looking at right here, these are all right triangles. And since they're right triangles, they're going to follow Pythagorean theorem. And Pythagorean theorem is the following. So you're going to say, oh, that's just c squared equals a squared plus b squared. But you need to figure out what is the c side. It's always the biggest side, which is the side across from the right angle. So plug in. Okay, you do not have 11. You have radical 11. So plug in radical 11. That's going to equal x, and you have to square that, plus radical 7 squared. Okay, so now let's actually square these terms. If you square radical 11, you get 11. Okay, so 11 equals x squared. If you square radical 7, you get 7. Your job is to isolate the x squared. So now I'm getting 4 equals x squared. I don't want x squared, I want x. Take the square root of each side. 4 is a perfect square, so x equals 2, and we're done. So I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to check it down here. Sure enough, x equals 2 is one of my answers. Okay, look at the next one. Again, what you can always do is you can draw a line from the right angle to the opposite side. That's the biggest side in a right triangle. So remember, our formula is c squared, which is the biggest side, equals a squared plus b squared. Okay, for c, this time you have 10. We're going to square it. It doesn't matter the order. I'm going to write radical 65 first. Sorry. Let me move this someplace. Okay, so I have 10 squared equals radical 65, and you're going to square that. Okay, you don't have 65, you have radical 65, and then square your x. Okay, 10 squared is 100. Radical 65 squared is 65, plus you have x squared. Okay, your job is to isolate the x squared. Subtract the 65, subtract the 65. Okay, 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 6 is 3. So 35 equals x squared. I don't want x squared, I want x. Take the square root of each side, and x will equal radical 35. That is prime. I can't do anything else with that. That's my answer. Let's check for it. Yep, there we go. Okay, so we've got 2 of the 6 answers. So let's keep going. Next one, I'm seeing that the side that's missing is the side that's the hypotenuse. So since I know I have c squared, which is the biggest side, equals a squared plus b squared, c squared is going to be my x squared, equals 4 squared plus 8 squared. Okay, 4 squared is 16, 8 squared is 64, 4 and 6 are 10, but then the 0 carry the 1, 6, 7, 8. So x squared is 80. So x is radical 80, but that can probably be simplified. So let's do that over here. If you take 80 So I'm going to say I'm going to take radical 80. I'm going to break it down into 8 times 10. I'm going to break that down into 4 times 2, and this is 5 times 2. Now, don't stop here because you're not done. 4 can get broken down into 2 times 2. Bring down everything else that's at the end of the lines. Put it back under the radical. Okay? Circle your doubles. They come out as a single. So I have 2 coming out. I have another 2 coming out. What's left inside is the 5. This is 4 radical 5, and this is what my x equals, 4 radical 5. So let's highlight that, and let's look down here. Yep, we've got one right there. So we're probably correct. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Here I'm looking at this triangle, number 4, and I'm going to say c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Notice I always write the equation first. C squared is the biggest side, which is the side opposite the right angle. 15 squared equals 8 squared plus x squared. So 15 squared is 225. That equals 64 plus x squared. Subtract 64, subtract 64. That gives you 1, 6, 1. And that equals x squared. But I don't want x squared, I want x. Take the square root, take the square root. And x is going to equal radical 161. That is prime. And so that's why this matches my answer. Okay, 2 more to do. Let's get them done. Okay, so I'm going to look at this next one. This is the biggest side. It's a right triangle. I'm going to write down c squared equals a squared plus b squared. And my c side is 15. 15 squared equals, let's make the radical 145 the a side, square it, plus x squared. Notice I put radical 145 and not 145. Okay, 15 squared is 225. You can use your calculator for this. When you square radical 145, you get 145 plus x squared. Subtract 145 because our job is to isolate your x, or your x squared in this situation. This is 0. This is going to be 8. So what's going to happen is your 80 equals x squared. X equals radical 80. And in problem number 3, we said that radical 80 is 4 radical 5. And here's all the work for that. Okay, so that's our other 4 radical 5. Okay, now I'm not going to just say, oh, look, 6 must be radical 21. Okay, maybe it is, but let's see if we can work it out. So what I know is that this is my biggest side. So I'm going to write the equation. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. The c squared side is going to be the 11 squared. Now notice that's 11 squared and not radical 11, 2 different numbers. And then let's make my a squared the 10 squared, and then this is going to be the x squared. 11 squared is 121. Again, you can use your calculator. 10 squared is 100, plus 82. Excuse me, plus x squared. Minus 100, minus 100. And I'm seeing that 21 equals x squared. So therefore, x equals radical 21, which only breaks down into 7 times 3, and I can't pull out a double. So my final answer is indeed what I hoped it was going to be, which is radical 21. Make sure you can do this and show your work and also simplify your radicals. Okay, so let's look at the next one. We only have 4 problems, but your goal is to find the area. They're all going to be two-step problems because you have something missing. So in the first problem, what do we have missing? Well, we have an x right here. So therefore, I don't have a base because this entire piece is my base. And this entire piece is my height. Okay, so the height is yellow and the base is, the height is green and the base is yellow. So we have to find that missing piece. Well, this is a right triangle. It's a 3, 4, 5 right triangle because I recognize the triple, but let's say we didn't recognize the triple. What we can do is this. So for problem 7, you would say, what's the biggest side? 5 squared. Well, let me backtrack and let me do it in the correct way so that I'm always applying my formula. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. So C squared is going to be 5 squared equals, let's just put that there and that there. This is 25 equals 16. And I'm sorry, I'm going to fix this. This is supposed to be X. So I'm going to make that my X so I don't confuse things. Okay, plus X squared. Subtract 16, subtract 16. 9 equals X squared. Take the square root of both sides. X is going to equal 3. So now if X equals 3, what do I know about my base? My base has to equal 1 plus 3. So that's going to equal 4. Okay, over here for A, I have area equals 1/2 base times height. 1/2, my base is now 3 plus 1, which is 4, and my height was 4. 4 times 4 is 16, and 1/2 times 16 equals 8, and that is my area. So 8 is the area I needed. Okay, let's do number 8. So number 8, what's going on is this. These are isosceles triangles. When you drop the altitude, which is unknown, you divide the base in half. So that means if this piece right here is 9, then that means that this piece is 9. 9 plus 9 is 18, so the base is 18. I am missing my X, which is my height. So for number 8, I'm going to find the height. 11, right here, is my hypotenuse. So C squared equals A squared plus B squared. C squared is 11 squared equals A squared, let's make that X this time, plus 9 squared. Okay, 11 squared is 121. X squared is unknown. 9 squared is 81. Subtract 81 from both sides, and that's going to give me 40 equals X squared. So X equals radical 40, but I know I can simplify that. So up here, I'm going to do radical 40. I'm going to break that down into 4 times 10, which is 2 times 2 times 5 times 2. Put that under the radical, circle your pair. That comes out as a 2. The 5 and 2 get multiplied, and I have an answer of 2 radical 10. So this X is 2 radical 10. Okay, I need my area. So I'm going to change colors so you can just see it a little better. Area equals 1/2 base times height. So I have 1/2. The base is the 18, and the height is 2 radical 10. So this 2 down here and this 2 can cancel, and your end result is that your area equals 18 radical 10, and we are done. That is our answer, just like this was our answer for area. Okay. Oh, and I should mention one thing. Back here, when I was doing these problems, I'm looking for a missing side. I really should have put the units. So problem 1 should have been centimeters. Problem 2 should have been meters. Problem 3 should be yards. Problem 4 should be yards. Problem 5 should be inches. And problem 6 should be feet. If they give you units in the final answer, you should give them back units. There are no units here, but if there were units, the units would be squared units. Okay, that moves us on to number 9. If I need to find out what the area is, I have to know the height. I'm going to drop this height down here. This is an isosceles triangle. When I drop the height, I divide the base into 2 equal pieces. I now need to find the height. So the height is inside the right triangle. So I'm going to say for number 9, c squared equals a squared plus b squared. The c squared is the 7. 7 squared equals x squared plus 6 squared. 49 equals x squared plus 36. Subtract 36. Subtract 36. 13 equals x squared. I don't want x squared, I want x. So x equals radical 13, which I cannot simplify. Okay, now they really want us to figure out the area. Now we have all the components. Area is base times height. So 1/2, the full base is the 12. The height we just calculated is the radical 13. This 2 in the denominator can go into this 12 in the numerator 6 times. My area equals 6 radical 13, and I am done with another problem. I'm doing these pretty quickly, and I have all my answers down here, so there's that one. What else do I have for my area? I have an 8. Do I have an 8? Bingo. Okay, well, I should have one more. I have a 2 radical 10. Wait a second. No, I don't. I have an area of 18 radical 10. Okay, we need one more. I should get 10 radical 6. Let's prove that we can get it. Okay, this is an isosceles triangle. When you drop an altitude, which I'm going to put an x on because we need to have this x, this is also 5. So the entire base from here to here is going to be 10. Okay, so I need to find the x. I'm going to do that by using Pythagorean theorem and dealing with the right triangle inside. So I know c squared equals a squared plus b squared. The c side is the biggest, which is across from the right angle. So 7 squared equals 5 squared plus x squared. Using your calculator, if you want, you should be able to get your squared numbers. And your job now is to isolate the x, subtract 25, subtract 25. That gives me a 4, and a 24 equals x squared. So x equals radical 24. We can break this up into 6 times 4, which is 3 times 2, which is 2 times 2. Put them all into the radical. Get your pairs. Whatever comes out is not in. That's going to be 2 radical. 3 times 2 is 6. So x equals 2 radical 6. Okay, half the problem's done. We actually need area. Area equals, notice I'm writing the formula down each time. That is really good form. Okay, the entire base is 5 plus 5, or 10. And the height we just calculated is 2 radical 6. So this 2 in the denominator and this 2 in the numerator can cancel, and you end up with 10 radical 6 for your area. Let's just make sure that's good. Do I have a 10 radical 6 down here? Bingo, I do. Okay, so that page is also done. You can go back and make sure that you understand this. Okay, so this is more of 7-1 and 7-2. Read the directions. Your first job is to determine if the following sides could make a triangle. That is job A. Then what is job B? Job B, if so, determine if the triangle is right, acute, or obtuse. So you have 2 jobs here. Okay, your first job is figure out if this can make a triangle. The way you do that is the following. You take any 2 sides, you add them together, they have to be greater than 15. Okay, 9 and 12 is 21, so that works. Then I'm going to take 12 and 15. That has to be greater than 9. 12 and 15, 27. That works. Then I take the 2 numbers on the outside, 15 plus 9. That has to be greater than the third number, which is 12. That is 24. That works. So this is a triangle. Once I know it's a triangle, I then figure out what kind of triangle it is. So I'm going to say C squared, question mark, that is key. A squared plus B squared. The C squared is always the biggest side. So 15 squared, question mark. A squared can be 9. These are interchangeable. 9 squared plus 12 squared. Okay, 15 squared is 225. 9 squared is 81. And 12 squared is 144. Okay, 144 and 81, 5, 2, 225. Guess what? 225 equals 225. If C squared equals A squared plus B squared, this is a right triangle. Okay? That's your answer. And this is all my supporting work. Okay, look at the next one. First, you got to determine that these are the numbers that can make a triangle. So take 2 sides, 9, 7 plus 9 has to be greater than 8. Is that true? Yes, 16 is greater than 8. That's good. Then 9 plus 8, another 2 sides, has to be greater than 7. That's 17. That's greater than 7. That works. Then take the 2 that are on the outside. 8 plus 7 has to be greater than 9. 8 plus 7 is 15. So that also works. I have a triangle. Now I'm going to do C squared, question mark, A squared plus B squared. The C side is always the biggest. So I'm going to put 9 squared, question mark, 7 squared plus 8 squared. 9 squared is 81, question mark, 49 plus 64. Okay, 49 and 64. 9 and 4 are 13, carry the 1. 6 and 4 is 10, and 1 is 11. So 81 is less than 113. If C squared is less than the sum of the sides squared, then that is going to be an acute triangle. Okay, keep going. Okay, the next one, can these 3 numbers make a triangle? So I'm going to do 12 plus 20. Is that greater than 8? Yes, because that's 32. So then take 20 plus 8. Is that greater than 12? And that's 28. That works. And then 8 plus 12. Is that greater than 20? That does not work because 8 plus 12 equals 20. So this is not a triangle, and we are done. Okay, last one of these. We want to say, can this be a triangle? So take 22 plus 15. Is that greater than 14? Yes, it is. Then take 15 plus 14, which is 29. Is that greater than 22? Yes, it is. Then take 14 plus 22. Is that greater than 15? And that's also true. I know this is a triangle, so now I need to figure out what kind of triangle it is. So I'm going to say c squared question mark. Okay, if you don't write the question mark for these kind of problems, I'm going to definitely take off. Okay, you don't know what the answer is, and you can't guess, so you have to just work it out. Okay, so c squared is the biggest side. That is 22 squared. That has to be question marks with 15 squared plus 14 squared. Okay, so I'm going to grab my calculator, and I'm going to figure out, I'm going to open it up, so you can go ahead and do your math and let me catch up with you. But I know that 22 squared is going to be 484. So this is 484. And I know that 15 squared is 225. And then 14 squared, I know, is 196. So I'm going to add 196 and 225, and I get 421. So 484 is greater than 424. If the c squared side is greater, then that means I have an obtuse triangle. So what do I, oops, sorry. Let me go back. You can E in there. I have an obtuse triangle. So what do I see? I see that I have a right, I have an acute, I have a not a triangle, and I have an obtuse. What are my answers? No triangle, got that, right, obtuse, and acute. So it looks like maybe I have them correct, and I know I do, so hopefully you have them correct as well. Okay, this is 77.3. That has to do with the geometric mean. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of things here. This is a leg. It's the geometric mean between the side closest to it, the hypotenuse side closest to it, and the entire hypotenuse. This is the altitude. The altitude is the geometric mean between the two pieces of the original hypotenuse. And then the last one, this leg, is the geometric mean between the piece of the hypotenuse closest to it, which is the 15, and the entire hypotenuse. So since I'm working with geometric means, remember the video that we watched tells us that the geometric means go here and here. They're the low high and they repeat. So I'm going to deal with x first. X goes in the box because it's a geometric mean. It's the geometric mean between the side of the hypotenuse closest to it, which is that 5, and the complete hypotenuse, which is 5 plus 15, or 20. So what I have is x squared equals 100, because 5 times 20 is 100. So x equals 10. I don't have answers for these written down at the bottom, so this is my 10. Well, let me go back. Let's make that light green. This is my 10. Okay, let's do the next one. It's y. I did y in yellow. Maybe I'll take brown to do the math work. So again, fraction equal fraction. The means go low and high. The altitude, which is the y, is a geometric mean between the two pieces of the original hypotenuse. So what do I have? 5 times 15. 5 times 5 is 25. That's 75 equals y squared. y equals radical 75, which breaks down into 3 times 25, which is 3 times 5 times 5. Take out the 5, and that equals 5 radical 3. So 5 radical 3 equals y, and that is the yellow, that is the yellow value. Then we're going to do z. Z is the other leg. Once again, we're going to do fraction equal fraction, and we're going to put low high for the means. The means are the other leg. It's the geometric mean between the piece of the hypotenuse closest to it and the entire hypotenuse, which is 15 plus 5. So do your cross products, and you should get z squared equals 15 times 20. Well, 2 times 15 is 30, so this has to be 300, and I'll leave it up to you to reconcile that that's going to be 10 root 3 once I simplify it. Okay, that's going to be the pink piece. So let's highlight that in pink. Okay, so we have all of our values right here. The next piece of 7.3 is to say that if you have a right triangle and you drop an altitude, well, what's the altitude? The altitude is right here. What happens is it results in 3 similar triangles by AA. So they want you to identify the 2 triangles that are similar to triangle PQS. Well, PQS is the big triangle. Okay, so this is big. I'm going to call this 1, and I'm going to call this 2. The big triangle is similar to each of those triangles. I know that, but I want to make sure I get the letters in the right order. So I'm going to tell you how to do that. Okay, first off, find the right triangle in the big triangle. That is going to be P. The right triangles in the little triangles both happen at R. Since P is the first number, since P is the first letter, you erase this, and I want to do something else. P is the first letter, and it makes a right angle. I'm going to put the first letter that has right angles as the first letter in the 2 smaller triangles. Okay, then look at triangle number 1. Do you see how both triangle number 1 and the big triangle have angle Q in common? Q is in the second spot. Put Q here. Then the third letter in that small triangle 1 is P. Just place it in. Okay, so far I know this is a right angle, and Q are the same angle. Let's analyze triangle 2. Triangle 2 has a letter in common with the big triangle also. That is letter S. Letter S is in the last spot. Put it in the last spot here. What's the third letter we haven't used yet? It's going to be a P. Okay, this is a right angle. That's a common angle. So you have AA similarity, and that's how I figured it out. Okay, so I've gone over this document in great detail. See if you can do it on your own and get the same answers that I get, because I'm going to ask you something very similar to this on our quiz, which will be the next time I see you. Thank you for listening. I hope you found this helpful.